Let me ask you something real for a second. Have you ever had one of those days where a single negative thought turns into a spiral that ruins your entire mood? You wake up late, you tell yourself you're lazy, you miss a workout, you beat yourself up. You see someone's perfect life on social media, and suddenly you're questioning every decision you've made for the last 5 years. One small thing becomes a story. That story becomes a belief, and that belief, it shapes how you see everything. But here's the truth. Most people don't spiral because they're broken. They spiral because no one ever taught them how to interrupt the cycle. We live in a world that teaches us how to succeed, hustle, look good, impress, but very few of us are taught how to protect our minds. How to manage those moments when it feels like your own brain has turned against you. That's why this conversation matters, because your thoughts aren't just words in your head, they're the architects of your reality, and if you don't take control of the conversation in your mind, it will control you, one spiral at a time. So today, I want to walk you through something I wish we were all taught earlier. A 7-step guide to break the cycle of negative thinking and stop the emotional spiraling that keeps us stuck. These are practical. They're human, and they're designed for those days when it feels like your emotions are running the show. Let's dive in. Step 1. Name it to tame. The most dangerous thing about negative thinking isn't the thought itself. It's the fact that we don't even realize we're in it, until it's already wrapped around us like a fog we can't see our way out of. One moment, you're just a little off. The next, you're convinced you're a failure, nobody loves you, your job is pointless, and you're going to die alone surrounded by piles of unread self-help books. That's how quickly a spiral can escalate. But here's the first game-changing truth. Awareness is the beginning of control. And when you can name your mental state, you stop being held hostage by it. Negative thoughts have a stealthy way of disguising themselves as facts. You don't just think, I'm not good enough. You believe it. You don't just think, they're ignoring me. You feel rejected, abandoned, less than. Your brain creates a narrative, and you play the main role in it, usually as the failure, the burden, the not quite there person. That's why the very first step in breaking this toxic loop is learning to say, wait a minute, I'm spiraling. Not I am a mess, not I suck, but I'm experiencing a spiral. I'm caught in a loop. This shift in language is powerful. It separates your identity from your experience. Because you are not your thoughts. You are not your anxiety. You are not your sadness or your fear or your shame. You are the person noticing those things, and that part of you, the observer, is the one that holds the power. It might sound too simple to work, but neuroscience supports it. Studies in mindfulness and cognitive behavioral therapy have shown that labeling an emotion or thought decreases its intensity. When you say, I'm feeling anxious, or I'm thinking I'm failing right now, you activate a different part of your brain, the prefrontal cortex, the part that makes decisions and regulates emotions. In that moment, you've pulled energy away from the panic centers in your brain and given it to your logical, grounded self. Think of it like this. If a storm is raging outside and you step outside with no umbrella, no protection, you're at its mercy. But if you realize there's a storm and you name it, a rainstorm, a thunderstorm, whatever, you can prepare. You can shelter. You can wait it out with wisdom instead of panic. The same goes for your mind. You're allowed to say, this is just a storm. It will pass. I don't have to believe everything I'm thinking right now. So the next time a spiral creeps in, don't ignore it. Don't try to power through it. Pause, breathe, and speak to it like a coach would. I see you. I know what this is, but you don't get to run the show today. This is the first act of reclaiming your power, naming the chaos, so you can start calming it. Step 2. Get physically present. Once you've spotted the mental spiral, the next step is not to argue with it. It's to get out of your head and into your body. Why? Because when you're spiraling, your nervous system isn't calm. It's on high alert. Your body doesn't know that you're freaking out over a text message or a missed opportunity. It thinks you're being chased by a lion. That's why your chest tightens, your breathing shortens, and your thoughts race a mile a minute. This is what we call emotional hijacking, and you can't think your way out of it. You have to feel your way back into the present. See, the body holds the key to breaking the momentum of a spiral. The moment you can bring your awareness back to the physical sensations of the here and now, you've broken the loop. Let's look at how. Grounding techniques are incredibly effective in these moments, and the beauty is, they don't require anything fancy, just your attention. Try this. Stand up and press your feet firmly into the ground. Wiggle your toes. Feel the texture of the floor. This reminds your body, I'm safe. I'm here. Nothing is attacking me right now. Place your hand on your chest or your stomach and take 5 slow, deep breaths. Count to 4 as you inhale. Hold for 4. Exhale for 4. It sounds simple, but it regulates your entire nervous system. It tells your body, you don't need to panic anymore. Use the 5-4-3-2-1 technique. 5 things you can see, 4 things you can touch, 3 things you can hear, 2 things you can smell, 1 thing you can taste. This instantly drops you into your senses, into the now. When you're spiraling, your mind lives in one of 2 places: the past, where it replays regrets and failures, or the future, where it predicts disaster and rejection. But the present? The now, that's where peace lives. The more you can bring your awareness to the here and now, your breath, your body, your surroundings, the more you shrink the power of the spiral. You might say, but I'm still thinking the thought. Yes, and that's okay. The goal isn't to erase the thought. It's to turn down its volume, to weaken its grip, to remind yourself that you are not inside the spiral. The spiral is inside your awareness, and you control where you place your focus. It also helps to move your body. Movement is magic for mental shifts. Go for a walk. Do 10 jumping jacks. Stretch your arms over your head. Why? Because when you move your body, you move your energy. You shift the internal state. Think of it like shaking off static electricity. The spiral thrives in stillness, when you're frozen in a chair, doom scrolling, or overthinking. But when you move, you reset the signal. Your body becomes the anchor that helps your mind come back to reality. And here's something powerful to remember. You are not trying to distract yourself. You are trying to regulate yourself. There's a difference between avoiding your feelings and creating space to breathe so you can process them with clarity. So the next time your thoughts are racing and everything feels like too much, ask yourself, what's one thing I can do right now to come back to my body? You'll be amazed how much peace is waiting in your breath, in your hands, in your feet, in your senses. You don't need to solve your whole life in one thought. You just need to return to this moment. That's where your power lives. Step 3. Challenge the inner narrator. If you want to stop spiraling, you can't just stop the noise. You have to understand the story behind it. Every negative thought we experience is not random. It's part of a narrative, a deeply ingrained Script our brain has been rehearsing for years. And here's the harsh truth. Most of those scripts weren't even written by us. They came from our childhood, our trauma, our culture, our environment. You might hear an inner voice that says, "You're not good enough. You'll always mess it up. No one wants to hear what you have to say. You're too much. You're not enough." And here's what's wild. Most of the time, you don't even question that voice. You just accept it as truth, as fact, as the lens through which you see your life. But let's pause and ask, who is this narrator, and why do we let them control our emotional weather forecast? This step is about doing what we rarely do, challenging the inner narrator, calling them out, fact-checking their script, because once you start questioning the story, you start rewriting it. Here's how you do that. First, get curious. When you catch yourself in a spiral, maybe you're thinking, "I'm going to fail at this presentation." Ask, "Is this true? Where is the evidence? Have I actually failed every time in the past or just once or twice? What would I say to my best friend if they had this thought?" These questions do something powerful. They interrupt automatic thinking. They shift you from emotional reactivity to intellectual inquiry. See, your brain loves patterns. If it has a thought once and it feels familiar, it'll keep running that track over and over until it becomes a belief. But when you introduce doubt, reflection, and alternative perspectives, you weaken the automatic connection. You also have to identify the tone of the narrator. Is it critical, harsh, cynical? Does it sound like someone you knew growing up? A parent? A bully? Or is it encouraging, fair, kind? For many of us, our inner narrator talks to us in ways we'd never talk to someone we love. Imagine saying to a child, "You're pathetic. No one wants you around." That would be cruel. Yet some people speak to themselves that way daily. So now the mission becomes, consciously choose a new narrator. Imagine someone who actually has your back. Someone compassionate, calm, honest, and fair. When you feel yourself slipping into negative thought loops, bring in that new voice. Let them speak. Here's what it might sound like. Old narrator, you always mess things up. Why do you even try? New narrator, you've made mistakes, but you've also learned. You're still growing, and that's courageous. Old narrator, no one cares what you have to say. New narrator, you bring value. You don't need to be perfect to be worthy. Old narrator, you're behind. Everyone else has it figured out. New narrator, you're on your own timeline. Life isn't a race. The goal isn't to lie to yourself or sugarcoat reality. It's to be fair, accurate, and kind in your thinking. Because spiraling happens when a thought snowballs out of proportion and we let it go unchallenged. But when you step in, like a wise coach or a trusted friend, and question that thought, you take away its power. The mind is like a courtroom. Negative thoughts are loud, dramatic lawyers trying to convince the jury that you're doomed. But you get to be the judge. You get to decide what evidence is valid. You get to say, "This thought doesn't hold up." That's how you shift from spiraling to sovereignty. Not by pretending you don't feel scared or uncertain, but by reminding yourself that you're not helpless. And the story isn't finished. Step 4. Break the isolation loop. If there's one thing negativity thrives on, it's isolation. When we're spiraling, one of the most damaging patterns is this. We retreat. We shut down. We avoid. We ghost the people who love us, or worse, we fake a smile and pretend we're fine when we're falling apart inside. And here's why that's dangerous. Your mind becomes an echo chamber. You think dark thoughts, and then you respond to them with more dark thoughts. No outside perspective, no new input, no reminder that maybe, just maybe, this isn't the end of the world. This step is about something bold, something many of us avoid because it feels vulnerable, reaching out. Yes, even when you don't feel like it, especially when you don't feel like it. Why? Because connection breaks the loop. When you're stuck in a spiral, talking to someone you trust can shift your entire internal state. You don't even need them to fix it, just to be there, just to reflect back to you a version of yourself that isn't falling apart. Even saying something as simple as, "Hey, I'm having a rough day, can we talk?" is enough to disrupt the narrative that says, "I'm alone. No one gets me. I have to carry this by myself." Sometimes hearing someone say, "I've been there too," is enough to lift you out of shame and into shared humanity. And listen, I know what the resistance sounds like. I don't want to be a burden. They probably don't have time. I'll wait until I feel better. But that's the spiral talking. That's the isolation loop, the one that keeps you stuck because you believe you're supposed to heal in silence. The truth? Healing happens in connection. It might be a friend, a mentor, a therapist, an online support group. It doesn't matter who. What matters is that you stop trying to fight your battles in the dark. Even small moments of connection, a phone call, a text, a walk with someone you trust, can offer powerful perspective. They remind you that life exists outside your head, that people do care, that the world hasn't abandoned you. And it's not just emotional, it's biological. When we connect with others, we release oxytocin, the bonding hormone. This reduces stress, soothes our nervous system, and helps us feel safe. Literally, connection calms the brain. There's another piece here. Ask for what you need. Do you need advice, reassurance, just someone to listen? Say it. Sometimes we avoid reaching out because we don't want to be misunderstood, but clarity creates connection. When you say, "Hey, I don't need you to fix this. I just need to vent," you give people a role, and that makes them more comfortable showing up for you. Remember, vulnerability is not weakness. It's strength in its most human form. You're not meant to figure everything out on your own. You're not supposed to power through pain without support. Sometimes the most courageous thing you can do is pick up the phone, send the text, or knock on a friend's door. You don't have to explain everything. You just have to be willing to say, "I'm struggling, and I don't want to go through this alone." That single act can create a ripple effect of healing. Because when you let others in, you start to feel safe enough to let the pressure out. And when the pressure releases, the spiral loses its grip. Step 5. Rewire through micro wins. If negative thoughts are like weeds, then micro wins are your daily seeds of strength. And no, we're not talking about grand gestures or radical overhauls. This step is about one simple truth. Momentum builds confidence, and confidence kills the spiral. Let's get real. When you're in a spiral, everything feels overwhelming. Getting out of bed can feel like scaling a mountain, making a phone call, responding to an email, going to the gym. It all feels like too much. So you don't do it. You stay still. You shrink. You procrastinate. But what's really happening in those moments? You're reinforcing the story that says, "I can't handle life right now." And when you reinforce that story over and over, you lose trust in yourself. That's why this step is so important. It's about flipping the script. Micro wins. Evidence that you're capable, even on your worst days. Let me explain what a micro win actually is. A micro win is any intentional, action, no matter how small, that moves you in the direction of your values, goals, or well-being. It could be as simple as making your bed, drinking a glass of water first thing in the morning, stepping outside for 5 minutes of sunlight, sending that one email you've been avoiding, doing 10 push-ups, journaling for 3 minutes, saying no to something that drains you. You might be tempted to dismiss those things as insignificant. But that's the spiral talking again. That's the perfectionist voice saying, if you can't do it perfectly or big, don't do it at all. And here's where people stay stuck, waiting until they feel motivated, waiting until they have energy, waiting for the perfect moment to change. But micro wins create motivation. They don't require you to feel great first. They just require you to act imperfectly, clumsily, even tired, and in doing so, they shift your self-image. When you stack small wins, you create what psychologists call self-efficacy, the belief that you can influence your circumstances. And when you start to believe that you have agency, even just a little, you start to act like it. Here's what's even more powerful. Micro wins compound. Let's say you make your bed, take a shower, and go on a 10-minute walk. Suddenly, you're not just getting through the day. You're showing yourself that you're capable, that you can participate in your own rescue. And that feeling is dignity. And dignity is a lifeline when you're spiraling. This doesn't mean you have to fake joy or put on a motivational smile. It means you show up for yourself in the smallest ways, consistently. It also means giving yourself credit for those wins. Too often we achieve small things and immediately dismiss them. Yeah, but I didn't go to the gym for an hour. Sure, I got out of bed, but I still didn't answer that email. This is the trap. You do something good, then beat yourself up for not doing more. What would happen if you paused, acknowledged the win, and said, "That was hard, and I did it anyway"? That counts. That's progress. It's not about lowering your standards. It's about building a bridge from where you are to where you want to be. And that bridge isn't built with self-hate. It's built with proof. Proof that you're trying, that you're still in the game. Micro wins retrain your nervous system. They show your body that you're not frozen. They remind your mind that you're not helpless. You don't have to overhaul your life in a day. You just have to win the next 10 minutes, then the next, then the next. And over time, those wins stack into trust, confidence, and a new internal identity. I am the kind of person who gets back up. I am the kind of person who shows up even when it's hard. I don't wait to feel better. I act my way into feeling better. That's the real secret. When you make micro wins a daily habit, you don't just interrupt negative thoughts. You build an entirely new relationship with yourself. Step 6. Practice thought hygiene. Daily, most people understand physical hygiene. We brush our teeth, we shower, we clean up messes before they build into chaos. But how many of us practice thought hygiene? This step is about treating your mental state with the same kind of intentional care you give to your body or your space. Because thoughts accumulate, and when they go unchecked, they rot. They turn into self-doubt, cynicism, hopelessness. Let's be honest, your thoughts shape your reality. They influence how you feel, how you act, and what you believe is possible. So, if you're not doing daily mental maintenance, you're living in someone else's emotional leftovers. Thought hygiene isn't about thinking positive. It's about thinking responsibly. Here's how you can practice it. Morning mental priming. Start your day by setting the tone. Before you scroll, check emails, or even look in the mirror, ask yourself, what's one thought I want to carry into today? What's one thing I'm looking forward to? What's one thing I'm proud of, even if it's small? This isn't toxic positivity. It's deliberate focus. You're choosing where your attention goes instead of letting the world choose for you. Name the noise. Throughout the day, check in with your thoughts the way you'd check in with a friend. If you're feeling off, ask, what story am I telling myself right now? Is this thought helpful? Is it kind? Is it true? This builds metacognition, the ability to observe your thinking rather than be ruled by it. Once you name the noise, it stops being the truth. It becomes data. Protect your mental environment. What you consume mentally is as important as what you eat physically. Social media, news, conversations, they all shape your thinking. So ask, who are you following? What content do you absorb each day? Are the people around you feeding your growth or your fear? You don't have to live in a bubble, but you do have to be a gatekeeper of your mental space. If a thought source constantly makes you feel anxious, worthless, or small, it's time to mute, unfollow, or take a break. End-of-day detox before you sleep. Give your mind a rinse. Ask, what thought do I want to let go of? What's one thing I learned today? What's one small win I'm taking into tomorrow? This small ritual helps your brain process, release, and reset. It's like brushing your mind's teeth before bed. Here's the beautiful truth. Your thoughts are not you. They are visitors. Some are helpful, some are not. You don't have to entertain everyone. You don't have to agree with all of them. You don't have to believe them just because they showed up loudly. Thought Hygiene gives you the power to pause, evaluate, and shift. It says, I'm in charge of what I feed my mind. It says, I'm not a prisoner of my brain. I'm its caretaker. The more consistently you practice this, the less you spiral. Because spiraling comes from mental clutter that's been ignored for too long. When you clean the windows of your mind, you see reality more clearly, and you begin to respond instead of react. And that is what freedom feels like. So if you take anything away from this today, let it be this. You are not broken. You are not your thoughts. You are not stuck. You are a human being learning how to be stronger than your storm. You don't need to wait for a perfect moment. You don't need to have all the answers. You just need to take one brave, imperfect step, because momentum doesn't come from thinking. It comes from doing. Peace doesn't come from having no negative thoughts. It comes from learning how to walk through them without letting them own you. And purpose doesn't come from some magical moment of clarity. It comes from showing up for yourself again and again until your life becomes something you're proud of. So take this guide, keep it close, practice it daily, and remind yourself you don't have to feel ready. You don't have to feel strong. You just have to decide, I'm done spiraling, and today I choose to rise. That choice, that's the first step. Now take the next one.